Hello and good morning, listeners around the world. This is Brian Wesley Johnson, and I want to welcome you to another edition of This Morning with Soulivity. I am so glad you're here, and I'm joined today by some very special friends of mine, collaborators and TV hosts, Sheila Applegate and Candace Harper. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Listen, everybody. This space is all about creating a time and a place for all of us, including you, our listeners, to have a real conversation about things that are going on in our world. So before we begin, I just want to let you know that, listen, we want your comments, your questions, give us your thoughts about everything that we're talking about during every single broadcast. And during the show, I'm going to include some of them so we can have a fully interactive conversation. Also, please let us know where you're listening from. May it be in the United States, Canada, Asia, Europe, wherever you are, we want you to let us know. So let's get started. We were talking a little bit earlier about whether or not we're morning people.
We are now.
Well,
Right.
exact ding ding ding. And my wife always tells me that I'm a morning person, so I will own it and claim it.
Yeah.
But I give myself time to kind of get myself together. It's not
Yeah.
like I pop up out of the bed and like, "Hi, world." It's like, no, 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 no. It takes me
Yeah.
at least about an hour or two to kind of like fully get up and integrate. How about the two of you? Candace, are you a morning person?
Well, we were talking earlier. Like I have the potential to be, the possibility to be. Let me just put it that way. And I'm a big believer. I have this really great coach, and she always says, "Words create worlds." And I am a morning person when I claim it, right? When I don't, when I'm like, or like I was saying earlier, if I've had a glass of wine the night before, not so much. But when I'm like, you know what, it's morning. Let me just get up and start singing a little Jill Scott or some, something to get me hype and make myself a morning person. Then it works.
Sheila, how about you?
I have really recently just claimed that I am. Growing up, my dad was a morning person and he was very proud of it. Like, that's the only way to be. So I
Yeah.
think I resisted that. But looking back, I really am. But I have different mornings. So I
Okay.
wake up a lot with writing in my head. And I've
Oh,
been doing that
nice.
since I was a child. So if that happens, now that I have a phone I can type in, sometimes I don't jump right up. But if I might go right down to the computer and start writing without doing anything. But on a normal day, I like to have my coffee and to sit in a line and just sort of get myself in my zone for the day. And then I do New York Times puzzles to wake my brain
Mm,
up. And then I'm ready to
I
Wow.
love
go.
those. Yeah, those are awesome. I
Hmm.
love those.
Wow. I'm not going to say all that. I mean, and our listeners, we want to know: are you morning people or not? Just post in our chat and let us know like what your ritual is for when you get up in the morning. Please only tell us stuff that you really want us to know because this is going around the world. Um, but we want to know. I mean, these are those questions that I think sometimes we don't ask ourselves. Candace, you were saying that your dog is not a morning person, though.
No, I mean, I'm so
Tucker's
happy
like,
about that too because he's a big boy, right? I used to have a
right,
little 6 pound Pomeranian, so it really didn't matter because little wee wee pads and they take care of themselves.
right.
But this one needs exercise. He needs to get out. But in the morning, he's like, we can leave at 9:30. I don't care. Right now, he's just curled up. He doesn't care. He'll eat.
Oh,
He'll eat, and if I put the food down, he's ready to eat at any time. But going out and getting up in the morning and getting his energy up and things like that, he's like,
right.
I'll get there. I'll get there when I get
Wow.
there.
Wow.
I
Well,
love
I,
that
I
about him,
I I love that about him too. I mean,
right?
sometimes it's like that where you can't move and you
Right? Or you
over
just
and
want to,
stay in the bed.
right? Or you just want to luxuriate in your morning. He likes to luxuriate in his morning.
Well, Tucker, you go ahead on with your
Right.
best life.
If I was a dog, I would do that too, I think.
Right?
Exactly. Well, we have
Like,
the cat. That's what she does
Yeah, yeah.
every morning.
I love
Um,
it.
well, let's get to some of our topics because there's a lot going on in the world. I know I have ideas about some things that I wanted to share, but me being the gentleman that I am, I'm going to let my co-host go first. So, Sheila, you want to go first with your topic for the day?
well, we were talking behind the scenes, Brian, and we're gonna let Candace
Behind.
go first. Only, because you stepped out for a second earlier.
Yeah, yeah. So we did, Brian. We kind of had our own little, and she was like, "Yeah, you go first."
Hey,
So,
so I picked up on that. See?
right? I want to say there's a couple people coming. Good morning to the people who are commenting, Chanel and Jeff. I just
Yeah,
want to
good
say hi and good
Yeah,
morning.
morning.
good morning.
Yeah, Chanel says she's a morning person. Good morning, all. So yesterday I was reading, I'm a relationship coach. So of course everything's relationship related for me in some way, even if we get political, it all comes back to relationships.
Right.
But I ran into an article from the BBC yesterday talking about the title of it has January become the month for marriages to end?
What?
Right. And apparently this has been sort of a thing that's been going on for a few years now. A law firm in Wales has claimed that inquiries about divorce have spiked 150% compared to November and December.
Holy crap.
Right, which I thought was really interesting. So, of course, I looked at some other sites. There's another one that was UK based called Fair Result, and it turns out they, I think, are either a law firm or an agency that is committed to a peaceful way of settling divorce.
Hmm.
But, I wanted to sort of go down the rabbit hole. Like, why is January the most popular time, right?
Right.
And so I came up with a few, in my search. And I thought it would be interesting to talk about like why we think that is. And then also I have a few questions for later, or a few things for later for, what you can ask yourself if you are considering divorce this month.
Okay. Okay. I like this.
Yeah, right. So one of the things that it was in the Fair Result article is they're saying because Christmas and the holidays are out of the way,
Mhm.
that's a big reason why people choose to divorce in January. And it kind of talks about the pressure of Christmas, and I was like, wow, like this is the Christmas holiday, and Hanukkah and all the holidays that are around this. I always say Happy Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Christmas, whatever. Put it all together. All the things we celebrate are about peace and love and loving each other, and it's just interesting. I mean, why do you guys think that it would be the thing that would be the impetus for ending your marriage?
Sheila, you want to
Well,
go? Want to take it?
yeah. I mean, because I think when we think of marriages, well, let's say the article says marriages are ending, right, as its click point, but really the marriages already ended by the time people
Mm,
are or
Mm,
changed
mm.
form by the time people are filing for divorce. So that
yeah.
seems like a time, whether they made an agreement because they have kids, get through the Christmas holiday. I mean, that's all family
Mm,
time, and it's such an important part of so many traditions that I think it makes sense that you've, waded through that. There's also that new beginning, right? Everybody jumps
Right.
in and thinks this is going to be my new year. And
yeah,
then we've
yeah,
got all the
Right.
legal
Right.
side of marriage, which is taxes and, like, let's keep this clean.
Right.
So,
yeah,
I think it's probably a lot of different things, but January, I do think, is an action month for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it's funny because that's a lot of what you said is what was in the article, like new year, new me,
Mm.
Hmm.
and
Okay.
and also all those pressures, those holiday pressures. And I think that's something for us to look at, like, as a community of health and
Right.
growth. It's like, what are we doing to ourselves that the period that is supposed to be about, family and celebration, that we're putting so much pressure on ourselves that it like you said, it either triggers, what's been wrong,
Right. Right.
or it sets us on a path of like, okay, this is it. Like now
Yeah.
the straw that broke the camel's back,
Yeah, that's the part that I was thinking about, ladies. I mean, you know, there's these holidays are steeped in tradition, right? And it's
Mhm.
just not tradition from the quote unquote normal sense of whatever people their belief systems, their religion is celebrating around, like you said, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, whatever it is. But there's also traditions that are homegrown within families, right? That are
Mhm.
generational.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
And does that mean that there's some dysfunction that's part of those
Yeah.
traditions, right? And so, yeah, if you're in a love relationship that is really needing some tender loving care, but it's not receiving that, and all that's happening during those holidays is that you're on replay
Right.
of, oh, okay, we're supposed to act like this. We're going to
Yeah.
treat each other bad again for the holidays, or we're going to be, distant um,
Yeah.
from each other. Yeah, that could be it could get to the point at which it's the straw that broke the camel's back, right? And then January
Yeah.
comes around and it's like, well, time to go.
Right.
Uh, you know, would love to hear what our listeners are thinking about this as well.
Yeah.
Karen is back, one of
Hi,
one of
Karen.
our fans already. Karen, we love you.
Hi,
She said,
Karen.
clean up for the new
Karen.
year.
Clean up for the new year.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
You
I
what
have
else?
a
Yeah, go ahead,
I have
Sheila.
a thought with it too, as far as the holidays. It's more of a personal sharing, but
Okay.
I my husband and I separated over probably like 24 years ago now. And the
Mm.
years leading up to it, I remember crying at Christmas time, thinking of the holidays and how they would have to change, knowing that we were moving in that direction.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
um,
mm.
the interesting thing is, this is now what, 24 years or something later, and or maybe, yeah, somewhere in there, and we still do all our holidays together. Our kids were little then.
Yeah.
I now have another partner, Zach, which you all know about, and because we work together.
Mhm.
um, and his parents now come to my house for brunch. They started that before, and we used to have bigger groups. My parents have passed on, so now it's just me and his parents and my family, both for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So I think when we step out of the box,
Yeah.
if we're moving in this direction, I think what we can also add is you don't have to do this the way other people do it. You get to do it the way
Right.
is right for you.
Right.
What's fascinating about what you're saying, Sheila, is that for me it begs the question of, do you think that part of what made it more doable is yes, you don't have to do it the way that people say you have to do it, but that like somewhat of the pressure valve was released, just that the pressure of being, I mean, like now we're separated. And
Mhm.
so the pressure of being this perfect wife and, whatever, I don't
Yeah,
know.
we are, close friends, and we
Yeah.
parent amazing together, but we have 2 different parenting styles. We
Wow.
balance each other out, but when we were also in confined, we can travel together. We do
Hmm.
Yeah.
good for about 5 days, and then we're ready to, get some space.
And
Bye.
and now you have the freedom to go ahead and have that separation, right? Just
Exactly.
like
We got to, I we made that choice because it was a way of loving each other more. And I don't think we
Yeah,
broke our vows because we said we would love and honor each other. And this is how we do it,
yeah,
because we can let each other take the paths that we wanted to take, be the people we want to be happy, and still love each other and respect each other.
I love
Mm.
that.
We have
That's
a
so awesome.
great comment from a listener, Renee. Sheila, this is so right. I celebrated the holidays with my ex-husband and his family this year as well, and it was a lovely and nice continuity for our son. Wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's
Isn't that it though? I mean, with I think sometimes we forget that we are grown and that we do not have to follow the same pattern that our parents and generations before us have taught us,
Yeah.
especially if it isn't working for us.
Yeah.
You know,
right. Yeah.
um, but
Absolutely.
that takes some awareness, though. I
Yeah.
guess you know.
Awareness, and also because I think, we're conditioned to believe that there is some sort of Norman Rockwell painting that we're supposed to be living
Mhm.
into, and there is some sort of perfection that we're supposed to be living into. And while I think it's fine if you're someone who chooses to hold certain traditions, I think we forget that our lives are a matter of our word, right? So
Right.
if you say this is how I want to live, this is what I want to experience, not only can you find compatibility with someone who wants to experience it how you want to experience it, just that willingness to stand in that, like, I want to do it differently. And mom, dad, I get that this is how you did it, or whatever family of origin, it's like, I get this is your way, but I don't have to do it that way, because
Right.
like you said,
Right.
Brian, I'm grown. And especially
Exactly.
if I'm supporting myself and my children, it's like I get to do it the way I want to do it.
Wow. Well, this is a great topic. I love it. I love it. I love it. Listen, we're going to take a quick break, but we're going to hold it right here, everyone. And we'll be right back in about 60 seconds.
Woohoo.
You can find all the Satana products at our Go shop on Soulivity at go.soulivity.com now. Shop for beauty products, skincare, hair care. It is all there at the Go shop. Go shop Soulivity. And we are back. This is Brian Wesley Johnson, joined by my very, very special co-hosts Sheila Applegate and Candace Harper today for This Morning with Soulivity. And we were talking about uh, divorce and January. I guess the new year, Candace. Wow. Uh,
January being the month of divorce.
yeah, I'm still kind of blown away by that. It makes sense though when you kind of think about it. But because everything that we were talking about before around tradition and people's buttons getting pushed, maybe there's dysfunctional traditions that are part of the holidays and that it just
Mhm.
pushes people over. Um, but you had more to share around, uh, you know, three things to consider around
Yeah,
this.
well, just before we move on, to a different topic, I wanted to just share three things to consider, not because I don't want people out there making themselves feel bad because they're thinking about divorce or thinking
Right,
that
right.
divorce is this awful thing, because sometimes it's the best thing you can possibly do.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
think that in order to kind of grow ourselves up and evolve and alchemize when we're in these sort of like what could possibly be a crisis situation, it's always good to just kind of ask ourselves a few questions
Right.
before we make moves, especially in such an emotionally heightened position. So I came up with three questions from my relationship coaching annals. And the first one is, are you fantasizing that there is something or someone out there that is better rather than growing, evolving yourself, and therefore the current
Ooh.
situation?
Mm,
So,
mm.
for those who are out there this January thinking about divorce as the only answer, Ask yourself that question, because you let yourself go on a journey of self-exploration, and you get to understand that whatever you're fantasizing about, we often think that if we can get out of a situation, the next thing will be better. But, in a lot of different growth modalities, they say wherever you go, there you are. So you want to
Mhm.
know that what you're doing is going on a growth journey, not jumping from one thing to a better thing, because that's not how it works. And then
Mm.
number two is, have you opened up communication and asked critical questions about your partner rather than making assumptions about them?
Mm.
Right.
You
Ooh.
know, right? Another thing is, I think that when we've been together with someone, even for short periods of time, people start to assume they know everything about that person. And the longer you've been together, the more you're stuck on what you think about that person. And before accusing them of being wrong or accusing them of being what you think they are, ask some questions and just open up some communication, so that you can really get a sense and try to listen from a place of not already knowing. And then the last one, if you have opened up communication, is there a way, especially if you have young children, like Sheila was talking about, for you to come together and do things as amicably as possible so that you can shift it in a way that works for both of you and work together even on being apart?
Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah.
Snaps on that.
Yeah.
Seriously. You guys both know that both my parents um are and were psychotherapists. As you guys know, I lost
Yeah.
my father a couple of years ago, but
Yeah.
one of the services that they provided, which was so interesting as a kid working in their practice, was they had divorce therapy. And they
Mm,
would have couples that would come in and really talk this through, like, do we really want to do this? And if we
yeah.
do this, what are the terms and conditions for
Yeah.
us to co-parent? Because that doesn't stop,
Yeah.
Right.
right? Especially if you have children.
Hmm.
And even if you don't have children, you want to leave in a with peace, ease, and grace, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
But oh man, thank you for that. That conversation gave me life.
Okay.
Be- Seriously, because I think we don't talk about, divorce is the ugly D word, right?
Yeah.
And as you said before, sometimes that is the best thing for a couple to do,
Hmm.
for each other, to have them move on and grow. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes there's so much, as I would say, so much dirt or whatever, or fog covering up the truth.
Yeah.
They may need some help to kind of
Yeah.
wade through that and clear that away and get back to why they came together in the first place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and make sure that there's nothing left unsaid or unspoken, like,
Yeah.
get that stuff out.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah,
Well, thank you for that. That was a great first topic.
it's fun.
Sheila, you want to go next?
Yeah, I was just going to springboard off of this and keep going with relationships. I think we're on a roll here.
Hey,
And
hey.
my next comment was going to be about being in love. There's only one relationship that we use that term with, and that's
Mm,
romantic relationship. And you can either be in or out of love in a romantic
Mm, mm.
relationship, and I don't agree with that
no.
because
Yeah, right.
it doesn't mean the same thing when we put it in there. We don't ever go in and out of love with our children, with our
Yeah,
parents,
Right, right, right.
in our house we talk about love is unconditional. It doesn't end. It's there. You feel it. It's an energy. It flows through you. Like is conditional, and the like
mm,
is based on behavior and the way things are going. And you may like someone and love them, and then the next day you may not like a behavior, but you still love them. So whenever my kids were young, or well, we still do it, and they do it with me too, and they even will send me a text if they hear people say I love and like you in film or media, because they're like, they're catching on. But we would, when someone would do a favor, right? Like if I went and decided I'd get my kids a glass of water when we were watching TV, they would say I love you and I like you. because
Mm,
it's not a conditional, right? So sometimes we even just say, I love you to that, right? As
yeah.
a thank you. But yeah, so what do you think about love being unconditional and like being the conditional force within that?
I
Candace?
I love it, Sheila, because I mean, it's very much in alignment with a lot of what I teach, and I feel like so often people are so resistant to that idea of unconditionality, right?
Right.
Like we forget that more than one thing can exist as far as our feelings and interactions with each other that you
Right.
can really, really care about. And it's funny because I was in sort of a conversation on social media with a gentleman who, he came on and he was saying how, your feelings don't matter, and, forget your feelings, and men are logical and women are emotional and whatever. He was going on this whole tangent, and of course I couldn't just let that go. I had to speak up and say that emotions and collapsing emotions and logic are not gender specific. And I think this also speaks to that, because I think
Right.
we forget
Right.
that
Right.
because you're mad at someone doesn't mean that you don't love them anymore, or
Right.
because you didn't like something that they did, it doesn't mean that you don't love them anymore. and
Right.
and the way to make love unconditional, or actually, if it's not unconditional, it's not love. That's the
Right.
Right.
very essence of it, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
the way to experience that is to just not attach what a person does or is, or who they want to be, or whether they did what you said, what you wanted them to do, to whether you care about what happens to them.
Right.
And we tend to do that. It's like, I got to punish you because you're not doing what I say, or I got to cut you off from communication because you're not doing what I say. And rather than just understanding that I just don't like what you're doing right now, it's not inherently my care for you, it's my disagreement with you. And we could benefit from making that distinction a lot more often. So I love that paradigm. I love what you're saying.
Mm, mm, mm. I'll just put my little 2 cents on it and step over to the side because you both are breaking this down so beautifully. Um, I think first and foremost, just to, you know, put a little bit more meat on the bones around this, I think people forget that love is multidimensional,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and that we look at it from the perspective of what we see in in the media, on TV and film, what we've read as books, the fantasies, you're the Cinderella, and you meet the prince, and and then you do the
Right.
happily ever after, and that kind of stuff, and then that's all that's talked about in terms of love.
Right.
Yeah.
There, maybe you get a little bit of the parental part of it. um but I think love is the binding force of everything that there is,
Mm,
and that it is what you said, Candace, it is unconditional,
yeah.
always unconditional, and that it becomes conditional when we put our own biases, our own history, whatever baggage that we picked up as a kid, that we're still carrying, that we're not aware of, um, and that we haven't healed from, and that going through this process of self exploration, self awareness, going down deep, where we first find that love for ourselves, that deep, 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 deep
Mhm,
love that's there, that brings you
mhm.
to tears when you even think about it. And then letting that expand out, you start discovering, wow, I have so much love for everyone and everything in
Yeah,
different ways, and that you could literally meet somebody for the first time and say, wow, I really love your spirit, and really mean it, you
yeah.
know
Yeah.
um but I mean, yeah, I mean, the limited notion of love where it's just romantic and not necessarily agape,
Mhm.
Mhm.
is just, that's one thing that I think will fix a lot of things in the world, personally speaking, because
Mm.
we'll see each other. We'll
Yeah,
Right.
start seeing each other.
yeah.
Yeah, because when you don't remember that, when you're not looking at love as agape, which is that unconditional force,
Yeah.
and you're mixing the like and the love and the conditions together, it's really difficult to make healthy choices for yourself within the relationship. But
Right.
when we feel that, then we can.
Right.
And I love that what you said about multidimensional too, for multi reasons. I work in the higher dimensions with a lot of people. That's what
Right.
I
Right.
do.
Right. Right.
And so another tip we could add to what Candace said is remember to reconnect to the soul of the person that you're navigating a relationship with. And you can do that through imagination and meditation. There's so much that we can navigate beyond the physicality when we realize that we can, right? Because we're dictated by so many things that most people don't pay attention to. And the more we open ourselves to pay attention to them, the more we can experience the fullness of relationships. And I have to say, just to bring it a little bit into more current things happening in the world,
Go for it.
I'm thinking of Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is up for the Golden Globes this year. I think tonight, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw that, but
Mm-mm.
did you either of you see it? You need to
I
see
didn't see
this.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to see this. It was amazing in the theater because the audience was responding together, but try to watch it with someone else at least because it's really cool.
Yeah.
But it really talks about all different forms of relationships, and it's an aging Asian woman who's Asian American dealing
Michelle
with
Yeoh, right?
family and generations, and marriage, and in relationship with her daughter, and then she suddenly gets moved into multi universes and begins to explore the different aspects of people, which is really cool. I love when our entertainment and media reflect higher levels of consciousness.
Yeah.
It's so good when they do that. And I don't know, I mean, I don't know of many films that weren't at least partially successful that have done that. I
Right.
mean,
People want this.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
the history of all the Star Wars movies is based in this force, right? We're all connected, right? The Avatar movie, same kind of concept. Um, and everybody go see the new one; it's really really good too.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, wow, another great conversation. Another great conversation. So listen, we're gonna hold it right here, and when we come back, then I'll give my little topic of the day, which is
Love
so
it.
it's actually kind of continuing in on the same theme, but
Mhm.
I'll
Cool.
wait and let our audience kind of like steep in this what is love topic that we just kind of talked about, and so everybody will be back in 60 seconds. Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime. Hello, everybody. Again, we are back with This Morning with Soulivity. This is Brian along with my co host Sheila and Candace. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello.
I love this. We just got a comment in from one of our listeners, Karen. I'm going to post it up here. Um, and she's saying that, I need to practice love like. I get mad at people, and I get mad at people and be ready to cross them off. I understand that. But later they come through and I feel bad for speaking negatively about them. I know I realize I just didn't like their actions at the time. I need to think before I speak. Wow.
Yeah.
Mm,
Wow. This,
Powerful.
I guess, before I go into my topic, I guess we'll just continue on this for a little bit. I guess this is the difference. Like, I think sometimes people forget that love, quote unquote, unconditional love, does not mean that you don't have boundaries,
Right.
true.
right? And that,
Hmm.
you know, this is when how people, we all have different value sets that we grew up with, things that we do that other people don't do, the idiosyncrasies and all that kind of thing. And that's part of, like, you got to work that stuff out, even if it's a professional relationship versus a
Mm,
personal relationship. And you got to figure all that stuff out. And so if somebody does something that you don't like, and I'll ask this question of you ladies, what do you do about that? Right?
yeah.
Hmm.
What, Sheila, what do you do if this person that you love does something that you don't like?
Um, I think it's interesting the way you said the person that you love, because I do feel like I love everyone. So I would put that in the spectrum of different relationships, but
Right, right,
if
right,
they're not really close to me, I would just look at myself and say, okay, I didn't really like that. What does that reflect about me?
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
then I may just, not put my attention in that direction until it circles back around. But with someone who's very close to me, where that behavior is either going to be continuous or it hurt me, um, then I may take a little while. I'm one that, I'm such a processor that I may jump right in. And I've learned over the years, I have time I can process myself before
Right,
talking to the person and see, again, the same thing, reflect, what part of this is me? What role did I play in this? What is it exactly that bothered me? And what is it that I need in my life or want in my life that's different than what
right,
just happened, before talking? And then, of course, sometimes you're in the heat of it and it's not as neat and it's a little more messy, but I always listen for the truth, and I always like to take responsibility, even in the middle of emotions.
right.
mm.
What about you, Candace?
I love that. I love what you're pointing at, Sheila, because what came up for me, what spirit moved me around, was the last part of Karen's statement when she said, I just didn't like their actions at the time. I need to think before I speak and act. And
Mhm.
I think you're right on the money, Sheila, as far as like that self reflection. And that, in a moment of what you're doing is pissing me off, you might not be able to, to get to that self reflection.
Right.
Right, right, right.
Right. But here's the practice, I believe. And here's what I think is at the heart of it. We very rarely think about what our inner dialogue is around when we move through the world. So if I do something that is
Mhm.
not what I consider to be smart, or I make a mistake, or if I'm making choices and something doesn't work out, we have to be willing to look at how do we respond to ourselves
Mm-hmm.
when
Right.
we do something that we don't like. So if my inner dialogue is to quickly be angry with myself, disappointed with myself, to get sad, to beat myself up, it's that perfectionist. If
Mhm.
my inner dialogue is to be a harsh parent, a punishing parent with myself, that's who I'm going to be in my love relationships. And by love relationships, I mean, my closest, most intimate people. That's who I'm going to be with the people I'm intimate with. So,
Mhm.
whether it's my children or my spouse or my partner, my family members, when they make mistakes, I'm going to react to them the same way that I react to myself. So the practice
Mm.
is react to yourself better.
Right?
Start to learn how to nurture yourself through your mistakes. Nurture yourself through the things that you do that you don't like. And, really be aware of that inner dialogue and be your own nurturing, self-loving parent, even if you didn't have a parent that was like that. Right?
Yeah.
Learn how to be a
Wow.
self-loving, nurturing, gentle parent to yourself. And then you will be able to, and it's a practice, trust me, because I'm a perfectionist from way back. I can still go to that dark place. My coach calls it the dark
Hmm.
night, right? Where you're giving yourself a hard time. But
Hmm.
that ease of, learning to nurture yourself through things, you practice it, and then it begins to express itself in how you interact with others. And you wake up a year later and your old life is unrecognizable. We're not light switches, but it's
Right.
just that willingness to say, you know what, I don't like the way that I respond when I don't like something.
Right.
And like Karen said, I need to think before I speak and act. Well, it's not so much forcing yourself to think in an emotional moment. It's really about practicing something different with how you treat yourself.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
One thing that I learned a long time ago is if someone does something that you don't like and it triggers you,
Hmm.
that is not the moment to have the conversation.
Mm.
If you need to have a conversation, you really need to unplug.
Yeah.
Right.
And if the person says, "Hey, what's going on?" It's okay to say, I'm triggered right now. I don't have the words that I need to express about what I'm feeling. I need a moment to process this, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you come back to it hours later, a day later, whatever it is, depending upon the love relationship that it is. Because, people piss you off at work and you still have to
Mhm.
work with them, but you
Mhm.
also have to communicate, right? So how do you handle that? Well, you handle it in that way too. You can
Yeah.
do that too. Um, and that it's not all the same, right? I mean, it's like I think Sheila, you said that at the top, that every disconnect is not going to be the same and the same level depending upon the love relationship um,
Right.
that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
But just take a step back. It's okay to take a breath. I think sometimes we feel as though that fight or flight kicks in, and we got to fight back to defend ourselves from these words that are being taught, or these actions. And it's like you're not been stabbed. You haven't been shot or anything. You don't need to call EMS, right? It's not that type of emergency. You can take a breath and then really feel what you're feeling. And then once the emotional content has died down, what I do is I write
Mm.
out
Yeah.
and let that other part of my brain kind of kick in, the rational part,
Yeah.
and then it'll sort itself out, and then you're able to go and talk and speak to that person, if necessary. Sometimes this stuff is internal. Sometimes you get triggered, and it's your own stuff, and it has
Yeah.
nothing to do with that other person. But at
Right.
least you give yourself some space to do that. Right, great. That was a great round. I love that. Listen, with the time that we got remaining, and this is kind of it's funny, how we're just all kind of connected this morning because, um, I wanted to talk about a film that I just saw called The Woman King. I don't know if either one of you has seen it.
I haven't seen it, and I want to because I love Viola Davis so much. She
Oh
stars in it, right?
man, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and we probably are going to have a couple of spoilers here, so just forgive me.
I
Oh,
have
Um,
seen it. I
yeah,
recently saw it.
yeah. What did you think? What do you think, Sheila?
I thought it was amazing,
Yeah, yes,
and so many levels. I saw it recently, so I'm still feel like I'm processing. But one of the most profound things that fits in with what we've been talking about for me is the relationships and the character development and the
yeah,
levels with which we get to know people in an action movie. It's just
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Just to give everybody the background for the Woman King, I think I think it did well, but I thought it could have done a lot better, because I think when you had the new Black Panther come out last year,
Yeah.
and then later on in the year, the new Avatar movie came out. But for the Woman King, I think people might have mistaken this movie as being the black woman version of Black Panther, and that is
Mm,
not this at
right.
all.
Yeah.
It's a movie that is based on historical fact, about the story of the Agoge,
Mm.
an all-female unit of warriors who protected the kingdom of Dahomey in the 1800s. This is way back, and I think even before that. This is way back in the beginnings of the slave trade, during the period of which the Portuguese were prominent, very prominent in the slave trade around the world. England and Spain were right on their heels. This is long before the United States really got ramped up in terms of their slavery.
Mm.
But the movie, I mean, these warriors were the King's Guard,
Wow.
Yeah.
and they were bad. Um, but there was, but and though the story revolved around them being these elite warriors and what was happening at the time, the king of that nation was considering actually, um, to stop selling his people for slavery, because that was happening. The slave
Mm.
trade wouldn't exist if there weren't African nations around the world that were actually selling slaves, selling their people for slavery. And
Mhm.
so this was happening all at the time. The Viola Davis, who was the general of the Agoge, she was telling him that we need to stop this practice.
Yeah.
But there was also this personal story that was also reflected in it, in terms of the unintended consequences of what was happening at the time,
Mm.
and which was just so deep. I mean, I'm about to go into a little bit of spoilers here.
It's
So,
okay.
okay, all
I'll
right,
still see it.
all right, good. Because I please everybody, I'm Scout's honor. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah.
Um, Viola Davis got captured by slave traders, and they raped her.
Mm.
She escaped, but she was pregnant.
Mm.
And her second, I guess, their second in command, I won't go into that detail because it's a little,
Yeah, this
but
is a big spoiler.
yeah, because it's a big
Wait,
spoiler.
wait, Brian.
I
Listeners,
know.
cover your ears.
Yeah. But anyway, but she has the child, and then they give the child away. And then
Mm.
there's stories that happen after that. But that story behind her dealing with that
Yeah.
pain, and then in the end, how she dealt with that is just woo.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
amazing.
It's
And
interesting because oh, sorry, didn't
no, no,
want
go
to
ahead,
cut.
go ahead.
Well, just with that, like, when they start in the having us get to know the soldiers, it's their pain that drives them, their hardship
Right,
that
right.
drives them, but there's another level that can drive you, and that's love, you know?
Hmm.
And
Mhm.
I think it evolves over time in different ways throughout the film.
And just to let people know this part of it too, which I loved. Yes, the Woman King is the center, but there was a reason why the film was named this way.
Yeah.
In their kingdom during those times, men and women were equals in
Mm.
terms of leadership positions, not necessarily outside, because there was still some patriarchal kinds of traditions and that kind of thing, where men would sell their daughter off or whatever, and they would receive that kind of stuff. That was still happening. But in terms of leadership, they believed in the feminine and the masculine being equal. And
Mm.
so at the time that the film opened, the king who was part of this kingdom was quote unquote alone on the throne, even though he had wives. There was also supposed to be a woman king that
Mm.
sat next to him, that they worked together to determine the direction of the kingdom together, because they were imbalanced until that point happened. So
Yeah.
that's why the movie was named The Woman King,
Wow.
in part.
And can
And
you
it,
imagine our world when if
ooh,
we had
exactly.
A
not
balance.
not just by ancestral
Mm.
lineage, but two powerful, a male and a female harmonized in leadership?
Yeah. Yeah. Be a very different world.
You know, I still think about this movie even to this day, because um she was respected. I mean, there was no question about her leadership skills, what they needed to do when they were defending themselves against some attackers, um, and other things that that all the men and the women who were part of the army and that kind of thing would follow her to death. I mean,
Mm.
that's how it was. I mean, in this balance that was there, I highly, highly recommend it. It's it was an it was I knew it was going to be good because Viola Davis is just
Yeah.
you
She's
know
amazing.
yeah, she's amazing, and she doesn't do junk, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she picks these films and that really she can dig her teeth into. Um, but man, I highly, highly recommend it. It's a great lift. It concerns all parts of love.
Mm.
Really, 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 really does. All-star cast with a whole bunch of great people in it that you probably have seen in other movies. So highly recommend it. The Woman King. I put the link to the actual movie site in our chat so that you can read more about it. And Sheila, it was on. I think it's on like all the cable
Prime is what
networks.
I watched it
Prime.
on.
Okay, it was on
Prime is what
Amazon
I
Prime.
watched it on.
Okay,
Yeah.
Oh, it's on Amazon Prime?
it's
Yeah,
on Amazon
yeah,
Prime.
That's good. I can
yeah.
watch it. I can't watch it today. I'm watching it this week.
Yeah, I recommend it. You come back next time and we'll chat again. But
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
I looked into it too, and they do all their I think all, if not most of their own stunts. And one of the things that I loved, because in action movies, I usually like zone out at the fighting, and then I
Right, right.
often I fall asleep in action movies usually, but they said that every stunt that they did was character development, that they
Okay.
did it purposely for their character development, where so many action movies, it feels like they just
Sake of it.
they put a story behind, like it's okay, here's the fighting, and then let's put a little bit of a story behind it to tie it together, you know?
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is the opposite. And even though there was a lot of fighting, it was beautiful fighting. And the dancing, I thought that was really important too, because I
Ooh,
feel like that's another
yes.
thing that our cultures are missing, especially for European backgrounds. We don't have that connection to the earth that in the dance that have grounded our
Mm.
societies
Mm.
in the
Wow.
past. So I thought that was really the weaving together of the dance and the fighting, because the moves were often very similar, and the energy, and I loved the way they wove that together.
Mm.
One last thing on this. The power and dignity, grace, um, and majesty of the women that were in the film and how they portrayed them
Yeah,
throughout the film
right.
was blew me away.
Wow.
Where they're these elite warriors and all that kind of thing. You think that they're always going to be, tough and quote unquote like manly women, which is not, which is a
No.
BS term,
Mm.
but they were whole. women into themselves. They defined themselves as they believe that they should be. And
Mm.
they, they danced, they ate together, they laughed together, they trained together. Um, um, it was really like a band of sisters. I mean, we heard the term a band of brothers. This is a band of sisters together um, that shared a very powerful bond with each other. Um, and it was also spiritual too, because there was
Mhm.
parts of it that were very spiritual where they shared that bond as well.
Mm.
So it was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful movie. That was my topic for today that I thought I'd share.
Good one.
You know,
Awesome.
oh man. Y- um, Before we get out of here, I just wanted to make sure that people knew about some of the things that you ladies were offering um, to help empower them through their days.
Mm.
And so, Candace, I'll go to you first for, what are you offering right now? I mean, what are some of the things that how they can connect with you and um, learn more about themselves and get more aware and empowered?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. So, like I said, I'm a relationship coach and a hypnotherapist. And what I am offering right now, I have my one-on-one sessions, and I also have a new group that I'm launching, I believe on the 18th. And it's the Love Life Leaders Club. And I teach an intensive that's just, modules of how do I heal the past, love myself unconditionally, and start my love life over from a clean slate. And one of the big things that I'm up to this year is teaching BIPOC plus women how to create a love life that loves you back. So one of the best ways to get in touch with me around that is through my website, CandiceHarperLoveCoach.com. And my offer to the Soulivity audience is that you guys, for my one-on-one or the group itself, get a promo code Soulivity50 just for being a Soulivity listener. You get 50% off. 50% off of either the one-on-one coaching or if you want to join the club membership, which is a year-long membership with other um, BIPOC women, BIPOC plus, I should say, because it is inclusive. But we're going to be concentrating mainly on BIPOC women. But you get to be part of a community of women who are creating a love life that loves us back. And that's my offer for now.
Wow. I really love that. And we're posting some of this information in the chat right now, but information will also be available soon on Candace's page on soulivity.com as well, because we want to make sure that we're supporting each and every one of our listeners.
Yeah.
Sheila, what about you? What are some of the things that you're doing right now to help
Well, my
support our?
focus is on helping people connect to their higher levels of consciousness as a way to discover your brilliance and create the life you desire. So I do that with one-on-one coaching, and I do have individual sessions. They're called Soul Messenger or Soul Connection sessions. Sorry. Soul Messenger is a program I'm starting later. But so Soul Connection sessions allow you to either go through a guided meditation with me, personalized. I see it and I help you connect deeper with your own soul energy, your loved ones who've crossed over, spiritual guidance. I also am a seer. And so if you prefer to just sit back and receive, I can connect to your loved ones and your spirit guidance for you, give you insights into the world like a reading. My passion with that is always to help you connect more, though, when you leave. So you'll get information right there. And you also can connect more when you're on your own. And then at Soulivity right now, on the 8th of every month, I do the Matrix of Illumination.
Mm.
And that is where I bring in channeled messages. So if that seems new to you, it's really down to earth. We all channel in some way, whether it's in art or sports or whatever. But I bring in messages from spirit that have to do with whatever's going on in that month and help bring you insights. And it's a lot of fun to have people show up and be a part of that.
Mm.
And you can do that on our Aspire Academy platform. We just put a link in the chat where you can join. It's free to join the Academy, and then you can find out more information about Matrix of Illumination with Sheila. I have done it several times, and it is magnificent. Um,
And they're always recorded too. So.
yes, they're always recorded. So if you register, or let's say you miss one of the days, you can always go back and register and watch again, and again and again, as many times as you need.
Mm.
Wow, this was great. This is a great
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, so much
More to
fun.
come. Yeah, more to come. We're going to be doing this every Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Everybody, these are conversations that we created to empower you, and so that it can be a little bit of an alternative to the normal news cycle. I mean, sometimes the news cycle, though informative, can be a little depressing, and we
Mhm.
thought that we would give you something that is more uplifting, and that you can carry that through your day, until you listen to us again tomorrow at 8 a.m. So, on behalf of all of us, Sheila, Candace, I want to say thanks for joining us for this episode of This Morning with Soulivity. Again, we hope you come back and join us every day at 8 a.m. Eastern. If you missed this one, you can always listen, or if you want to listen again, we have a rebroadcast of this at 11 a.m. Eastern, for especially for all of you on the West Coast. Until next time, keep having real conversations with passion and purpose to create a life full of high quality living.
Yes.
Goodbye, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.